Hi, everybody. Okay, Good Friday, and it's exactly midnight, right? It's exactly midnight. And can Good Friday be happy, right? We're supposed to be quiet and reflect um, on this day. And there's a lot of reflecting going on in this case and all the new information that's coming out. Of course, we will start with saying it's 2071 days since um, 2071 days since Richard was forcibly removed. Wow, it's Good Friday, yeah. Forcibly removed, drugged down to the basement room. They took his life right there on Fort Bliss. And they stole his body. Um, all evidence indicates, especially after today and more evidence that we have, um, that his organs were harvested and his body then was trafficked to Juarez for disposal. This is a total act of war against the United States, and and they know it. The president knows it. Um, the media knows it. The Congress knows it. The Senate knows it. They all know it. That's why there's a chill. That's why there's a chill when it comes to saying Richard Halliday's name, reporting on Richard Halliday. It brings a huge chill because this was an act of war by the uh, embedded cartel, the embedded. I wouldn't even, yeah, they're cartel, but they are an organization. They are a Mormon faction. They bring terror. They bring terror. And they are, uh, many of them are dual citizens um, with alliance with the Mexican cartel. And these are philanthropists, quote unquote, philanthropists. A lot of money floating around, a lot of money that was made illegally. And these people are absolutely monsters, absolutely monsters. I just don't have any other word to describe them. And I think how President Trump has described them is so right. Thank you, Laura, for coming on so late. Um, there is a case that is going on in Colorado. And I thought I posted it. Oh, let me make sure I can do this now. And I want to go to it because it is very similar to the Plenitude crematoria. And this is 200. There's different numbers, just like down in Juarez, but this is half as many. But, we don't know the exact number because we're talking about flesh peddling, right? Flesh peddling. But it does corroborate, thank you so much. It does corroborate the uh, the fraud going on during 2020, right? The fraud going on during 2021 with all the COVID money, right? All the COVID money, a lot of fraud going on, so big. I mean, and this was like $1 billion, right? Like $900,000 um, of COVID money that they fraudulently took, flesh peddling, um, giving families concrete dust in urns instead of the ashes of their loved ones. And then when they found, and this was really exceptionally rotten because these bodies were natural still, so they didn't do the embalming, right? Where down in Juarez, there was all mixed, right? Mixed. Um, so, here you have Colorado, and I believe Mr. John Halford received about 60 years in prison. I don't know if is that enough? Is that enough? You know, maybe it's because of doing this for 5.5 years, more than 5.5 years, and understanding the depth of criminality here, because of the money laundering and the fraud and the desecration of so hundreds of corpses, the impersonation that goes with it, because you have to go, oh, trust us, we are so wonderful, we care about you, oh, you poor dear, you lost your loved one, oh, just we're going to handle everything. And then they give you an urn full of concrete dust. The level of impersonation, the level of fraud, the level of absolute evil. Do you think that that a prison time 60 years is enough? Uh, should there be restitution? Because I know there's restitution in this case, lots of money. Absolutely everything, because, they were buying Gucci, right? They wanted Gucci. Um, it's absolutely crazy to hear. And I'm sure that's what Rosa Maria purchase Arliano Caron wanted. She wanted Gucci. Let's go on a cruise. Let's have my the Audi, you know, and absolutely engaging, and in that case, linked to um Alejandra de la Vega and her mother, and all those links, and targeting a U.S. Army female soldiers and the whole La Diabla. All of there's so much to that story, and we have not released it all, but who they were targeting, what they were up to, all of their networks, all of their businesses, their LLCs, their shell companies, and and all of their connections, even with the Duartes and everything. It is absolutely, these are monsters, absolutely monsters. And the billions of dollars of fraud, really, and criminal activity. So, getting back to the Halfords, John and Carrie Halford, I wish I didn't know their name, but I know it now, even though John Halford, how can this be? You want to be a Juan Aguilar? Why is that? Why does he want to be an Aguilar? Um, yeah, how is that he wants the very same name, the very same surname as Martha Mendez Aguilar, the La Diabla, right? The La Diabla. Uh, can you believe that, y'all? I mean, this is the same network that is doing the same thing. This funeral fraud, letting bodies rot for decades, and they have the last name Aguilar, Colorado, Texas. Is there a connection? Are they connected? Are they related? Are they communicating with each other? You know, they're flesh peddling. They're Do they give like tips like, oh yeah, that COVID money, this is how you do it. You got to fill out this form, you got to fill out that form. And I'll send you a body, you send me a body, then we'll do unidentified. Are they doing that? Are they cooperating with each other? Um, Something is, you know, gosh. And then today, Pam Bondi was fired. And, I listened to the podcaster named George. George, I really like George. Um, he was so on the money, boy. He was so on the money. Um, a happy day, because there's been, of course, there has to be the diplomacy, right? The diplomacy and everything. And that is, you know, I know people get so sick and tired of the diplomacy, but we're not animals, right? And we don't want to be uncivilized. But at the same time, we want justice, right? We want justice. So I think what we're sick of is not so much the diplomacy, is the lack of justice, right? Because there's a lot of rumors floating around with about Pam Bondi, about leaks. I don't know if they're true. If there were leaks to Swalwell, like that's a leak that's coming out, that there was a leak to Swalwell, the Feng Feng, him having an affair with Feng Feng, and you know, um, I don't know, because I know he's an arch enemy of President Trump. And I know that there is a lot of mutiny. Okay. There's just a lot of mutiny in these 5.5 years. Yeah, there was so much, not really for Biden. Biden was so protected. The mutiny was the weaponization of the Justice Department and the law enforcement, and the military against President Trump. And that's why, because I know the character level of these mutineers, they're absolute predators. They are absolute predators, and they have zero good quality character. And they are the ones that are coming after President Trump. So what does that tell you? You know, and I've read enough books about the saints, and today is really a good day to talk about that, because many of the saints, Athanasius against the world, right? Athanasius against the world. People are just, they don't want to risk taking a stand. They just don't want to risk that. Um, they, most people really are very, very fearful. That's why God calls us sheep. And, he gave me that great lesson of living in Ireland, whereby my neighbors were sheep. My neighbors were the actual animal, the sheep. And I remember coming home. We had a very long lane, and a little lamb was on the lane, and I was like, "What? Oh, why is the lamb on my lane?" Because we have fences and everything, right? And then I realized that the lamb was bloody, and and then I looked in the field, and I saw so many sheep dead, right? The dogs had gotten out. Well, the dogs. What happened is during the Celtic Tiger, which was a real boom in the economy there. People, um, had extra money, and so they bought themselves dogs. And then when the economy went bust, they let their dogs go, right? And you don't have a small country like Ireland and let your dogs go because, there's a lot of sheep farmers, especially in the Midlands where we were at. Um, and of course, Richard was there with us, right? Um, and you just don't, because the dogs, they'll kind of for fun, they'll run after the sheep, but then when they bite the sheep, they absolutely go crazy. And you have to put them down because they're never the same. Once they nip and bite a sheep, a lamb, uh, they become monsters. They become monsters and they're never the same. There's nothing you can do. And the two dogs that had done so much damage, I mean, killed so many. And the thing about sheep is that, you know, even though some of them were big chunks were taken out of them and everything, um, there were many that had just died of fear, just died of fear. They just had heart attacks. And so sheep are very delicate creatures, and they get afraid very easily. And you can do a lot of damage. Two dogs, and you know what they were? They were chocolate Labradors. Chocolate Labradors. Um, yeah, and that happened a few times, different dogs. Um, and the farmer, it's if you've ever had sheep, you understand how much work they are. They're just a lot of work. You have to take very, very good care of them. And the way subsidies work and everything, you don't make a lot of money off of them. And so when you have a couple dogs come and ruin everything, it's devastating. It really is devastating, all that work and those beautiful animals that you put all your time in. And then you have two dogs that just are so destructive. Um, yeah, this that was a good lesson. And God in his word calls us all ye like sheep, all ye like sheep. And because he knows that we need to be taken care of, right? We have to take care of our children. We have to make sure they're educated properly in the admonition of the Lord, so that they grow up and have peace, right? That they have peace in their life. Um, yeah, and then you have to teach them courage, and not to fear death. And I think this is what Good Friday is all about. Is Christ has conquered death for us, and we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to live in fear. But uh, you know, um, many do, and this whole test, because of all of these 5.5 years, the tests that we've been put through, um, because of the retaliation that we have gotten, um, the threats and the vile and vulgar, and then just the because people don't see behind the scenes. Um, and if you did, you would be like, oh my God. Oh my God. You'd say, how does Patricia look so good after going through all of that? How does she look so good? Oh, wow. You know, that's a joke. That's a joke. But yeah, it is just absolutely amazing how weaponized our government is against justice. Okay, it's not, you can't take it personally, right? They hate you because you want justice, that you want peace, you want law and order, and they want criminality. Um, they want their billions, they want their millions, they want power. the Alejandro de la Vega and Paul Foster's and Woody Hunt. I don't even know if Woody Hunt's still alive. Woody Hunt's son, Josh Hunt, yeah. They just want to keep that status. They want to keep their caste, their caste. They want to be in that high caste, and have everyone else be the worker bees, right? They're that Mormon faction. They have that Mormon mentality instead of wanting to bless others. Um, you know, and so they really don't, hate me personally or hate our family personally. Maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they do. But they just hate justice and they hate light. They hate for people to know what they've done, um, with the bonds, forcing El Pasoans to pay so many taxes. Oh my gosh, so that they can go into Forbes and claim to be, we made so many billions this year. We made so many billions because they force the taxpayers with their influence, with their bribes, with the politicians, with city council and all of that to make El Pasoans' lives very difficult, miserable and difficult with all the taxes and everything um and so that they could have their Maserati or whatever. Uh yeah, it's really ill-gotten gain, because I don't deny anybody that if you become rich on your very hard work and your intellect and inventiveness and all of that, I don't begrudge anybody to become rich, but to be monsters and enrich yourself illegally on trafficking and organ harvesting and flesh peddling while eating human flesh and targeting young girls, young boys, targeting the schools to bring down the culture so that when Good Friday comes, when holidays come, um, when death comes, um, there's just no care, there's no bother, there's just no bother, right? When you lose someone that you don't have the courage, that you don't have the means, that you don't have the know-how to stand up to the infiltration embedded, because it's not the government, right? It's not the government. We have a beautiful government. We have a beautiful Texas Constitution, beautiful United States Constitution. The system is beautiful for Christians, okay? For Christians, for those that believe, because I'm saying Christians because it's based on uh, Christian government, right? The spheres of government. That's how it's based on that. And so for Christians, it's good. But if you're a Mormon faction, polygamous, or some other, Sharia law kind of person or whatever, then it's you don't respect it. You don't respect it, and you manipulate, and anyone can really, if you know it's bound to get corrupt, it's bound to be embedded, it's bound to be compromised, um, when the people that are supposed to be living that are living in your country have a law, a government system that they don't want. That they don't want. That's the thing. They have no respect. They have no respect for it. They have, we got judges have no respect for the law. They absolutely weaponized it for years and years um, to target President Trump. The Walmart mass shooting, the bloody Walmart mass shooting, number one reason why they did that, because it was orchestrated. Okay, it was absolutely orchestrated. And I'm thinking that a lot of these mass shootings or active shooter cases is orchestrated. I'm thinking that needs to be investigated. I think Candace Owens mentioned that, and and it needs to be investigated. So when you have someone like Pam Bondi, when because totally mutiny. I mean, the military absolutely were involved in the orchestration of the Walmart mass shooting. There's no doubt in my mind because of everything that we have in evidence. And Richard was reporting that, and it was to target the president of the United States because of contracts, because they have no respect for their oath. See, you have embedded cartel. You have embedded, in this case, in our son's case, it is embedded Mormon faction cartel in alliance with Mexican cartel, because we're at the border, and the border, right over the border, where the starting in like 1890, the Mormons went and settled over in Juarez, Mexico, well, in Chihuahua, Mexico. They went over there and they had big families, and those big families had big families. The Romneys, I mean, I think his grandfather had like six wives, and they all had tons of children, and I love children, but I see a real danger in that, because there's no like loyalty in that. Well, it's just not right, right? It's not Christian law, right? It's not Christian law, it's Mormon law. In Christian law, we have one husband, one wife, right? We have the nuclear family. um it's not so dangerous. It's not so dangerous as polygamy, right? And some of the Mormon polygamists went over there. Many stayed in the United States, and nobody talks about that, because a lot of fraud to cover up what their family was doing. A lot of fraud. And so the Wettons, right? The Wettons, um, they're the Mormon faction, and of course, Connell Wetton is the FBI. I wonder if he's dual citizen, right? He might be dual citizen because he's from Chihuahua, right? That's where his loyalty is, with the colonies, right? And so he becomes FBI and sits there as an assistant special agent in charge, and leaks the whistleblower that is exposing their whole network. Um, Leaks it to the cartel. Why to the cartel? Well, because they're the assassins, right? They're the killers. They're the, um, they have those that do the money laundering, and those that manage the tunnels, and those that do the drugs, and those that do La Diabla's work, where she gives kitchen knives to 16-year-olds and say, take that baby out of that woman. That really happened. That really happened. That's in the report. And then we'll sell that baby in the black market to homosexual couples in the United States. And we'll, oh, she hemorrhaged. Okay, so and this is reading out of the report. So, let's just take her organs. We'll make money off of her organs. And we have Plenitude Crematorium right there where we can dump the rest. We can dump um, absolutely, absolutely horror and terror and terror. And of course, they then don't respect um, the body, right? They don't respect, if they don't respect the body, how can they respect any law, right? Um, Look at what they're doing, letting them rot and flesh peddle. And um, so then they don't respect the Texas Constitution. You see that with Alejandra de la Vega. She's dual citizen. We know that. And she worked for Greg Abbott. I'm sure I know she paid him handsomely. She paid him handsomely. And then she got her appointment there that gave her access to the American government system, the databases, the intelligence databases. It gave her access to active duty soldiers that were female, right? It seems like that's what she cared about, right? Active duty, because her mother was, on Planned Parenthood and kind of started that whole thing over in Chihuahua, right? They wanted the babies, y'all. They wanted the babies. Um, and then it probably developed into the organ harvesting. I don't know. But she, at the same time, working for Greg Abbott, she went and got appointed the same time, y'all, for Javier Corral Gerardo, the governor of Chihuahua. And where did she go? She sat on the commissions for security. So she had access to Mexican security, the Chihuahuan security, um, the police, the um, all of the border intelligence databases, right? So here she could just traffic with impunity, and she was also on the economic, that was her appointment, right? And so all of the money laundering, no wonder she invited Cesar Duarte and his wife Bertha Fong to bring in the money, and her husband, over in the El Paso side, he had opened up West Star Bank with Woody Hunt. And they had El Paso Community Foundation, which was also like a little bank for them. And they could just money launder just millions and millions and billions and billions. And then it got into the fuel theft, right? Because Alejandra de la Vega and Paul Foster and Woody Hunt, they're the ones that brought in Cesar Peniche from Mexico City. And Cesar Peniche with his Grupo Carvel, why do I have to buy wholesale fuel? Why can't I just go to the pipeline and siphon it out? Let's just siphon it out. We got the Mormon faction here. Our security, right? Our protection network, our protection racket. Um, and then the other day we saw that they were um trafficking fuel, two big 18-wheeler tankers from Texas um into Mexico without any paperwork. No paperwork, just trafficking that fuel. Did it come from Fort Bliss? Right? Did it come from the city of El Paso or the county of El Paso fuel depot or something? So those are all, and they have like a monopoly. Remember, their competition was shot in the head. I don't even know if he's still alive. Um, so it's like the they have their whole network of terror and thievery and trafficking, um and the universities, do not believe for a minute that UTEP and Texas Tech University Health Science Center are innocent in all of this. Okay, and of course, um, Park University on Fort Bliss. Don't think they are. I have some stories to tell about Park University and all through this, but yeah, they're not innocent. This is what these billions of dollars. What about that Southwest college or university too? Didn't she name her stadium after? after that university, or is it a university or is it a college, right? Yeah. So they're, don't think for a minute that they're innocent in all of it. This is our whole infrastructure that they have totally infiltrated, embedded, controlled, but not, you know, and this is where theology is really important to study, because they can totally pollute our system, but never completely. And when you understand that, you understand the power of the people, because no matter how they can control the FBI or the judges or the DA's office, or on and on, the universities, the schools, the El Paso ISD Police Department, remember, Manuel Chavira, now, he's out now, or even maybe Pam Bondi, because Pam Bondi, there's a lot of questions there. And of course, President Trump, they have to be very um, because they're cheerleading the people on. They're winning over the people. And we're like sheep. And we become very afraid very quickly. And, when you think that, when you know how deep the trouble is right now, it can be overpowering, and then you don't realize the power that you have. You don't realize the power you have. Um, so they do things diplomatically to keep calm, keep everyone calm. But let's fight, 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 right? Let's fight, fight, fight. And so Pam Bondi, I don't know if she went over to the dark side. I don't know if that leak to Swalwell, that is just up to no good. When you're bang, banging, fang, fanging, or whatever, you're up to no good. It's kind of like Lilani Hart and her family. And I mean, that's just sex cult to the turbo level, right? And being part of the CID and tampering them with documents. I mean, when you go down that road, it gets pretty bad. And you see that when you're in those offices of power, the chairs of power, you see, um, the left side, you can talk about all of them, right? You could talk about all of them, and what terrible things they were up to. I just can go into Haiti and talk about the history of Haiti and all the trafficking of that, and the exploitation. Remember when they had the hurricane, the exploitation of that country. Um, but and the exploitation of what happened in Puerto Rico. Look, the governor of Puerto Rico, President Trump, just diplomatically pardoned her, because remember when President Trump, during his first administration, sent all of these supplies to Puerto Rico when they had the hurricane that was so devastating. She warehoused all the supplies and let them just sit there or even rot, instead of giving them to the people of Puerto Rico, because they were targeting President Trump, right? And so I'm sure, whoever told her, whatever you do, don't make Trump look good. Don't give that stuff to the people. I'm sure that singing of who she was communicating during that time, um, probably got her that pardon. But, this going back to, uh, the border, and these, the level, it's not like, let me just sell you some drugs now, right? It's profiting off of um, the death of people. And Richard was a whistleblower, and I don't know what they said in their little meetings. We know that they had the meetings because they sent Ray Velarde to Richard, um, because it was Bob Moore's family who set Richard up with the car, right? That's why we don't have Richard's car, because that was that's all sketchy. It's like taking advantage of a young man, um, trying to set him up, and it didn't work. It didn't work. But Bob Moore absolutely targeted Richard before Richard was killed, and I hope everyone understands that he's part of those that hurt Richard. He is part of that group that colluded together to have discussions about how to discredit Richard, how to remove him as a whistleblower, and how to take his life. I really believe that those discussions happened because, look at the organization, the orchestration of it all that it took, um, to cover it up. And I do believe that uh, finding Vanessa Guillen's body made them more, like, careful about the disposal of his body, because they thought they had disposed of Vanessa Guillen's body to the point where it would never be found. The way her body was disposed of was very sophisticated, okay? Very sophisticated. And God had different plans, though. And her body was found. And so I think that that's why they went to such extremes for Richard. And we'll see. We'll see. We are in the vicious negotiations for the repatriation for our son's remains. And they are vicious. And if you doubt that President Trump is part of those negotiations, then you need to consider everything that he has done. It's like, um, Candace Owens really was triggered by President Trump saying to Erica Kirk, Well, why don't you just go sue them? What, these people that are kind of picking on you, you know, saying that you're part of this plot against your own son, your own husband, right? And bringing out all this stuff with Fort Huachuca and everything. Why don't you just sue them, right? Why don't you just sue him? And she was triggered because she, like, and maybe I'm wrong, but in the context that she came out, it was like she feels that President Trump is covering for her. Uh, I don't think so. I don't think so one bit. You know, he put her in the spotlight again. And the thing that Erica Kirk wanted was always to be in the spotlight. But the spotlight she's in now that she always wanted is absolutely devastating to her. Absolutely devastating, because she exposes her own self. She exposes her own self and her own family. Um, the investigation into that is just absolutely devastating to their network, and President Trump has absolutely devastated the USAID, right? The NGOs, the contracts, the whole thing with the Iran war. This is, gosh, if you haven't been part of the military contract world, it's such a big part of our economy. Um, gosh, it's the trafficking, the contract world wants a forever war because that's how they make their money, right? Um, the uh, the scheming of this same group, I you know, it'll all come out. It'll all come out. Um, but it's not what we're being told. I can tell you that much. It's not what we're being told. There's a seen and the unseen, and we have to be really patient for it to come out. But Pam Bondi wasn't doing her job. She wasn't doing her job. She could have done just a little bit. She could have done just a little, and she didn't do it, and so she needed to go. You know, uh, President Trump gives everybody a chance because there's so many that have been compromised over the years, and if you just like how we want to do it, oh, you're compromised, get away. You know, yeah, there would be uh, nobody to prosecute anything, you know. So it's just this, wait a minute, you have to drive these people to do the right thing. And some people just can't be driven, once they take that first bite, they can never be changed. And yeah, I think she just needed to go. And if she leaked, wow, because we know that Joe Kent leaked. Okay, we know that. I know that personally, because he vetted Mitch Snow, told me. Mitch Snow told me that um, Joe Kent vetted him as a favor to Candace Owens, and it was just one SF favor. SF, what did he say? Soldier? No, it wasn't soldier. One SF to another, right? Because they were both SF, you know. And that's the thing. It's all one little community, right? With Brian Harple, with this is the security for Charlie Kirk with Dan Flood and Brian Harple. You don't think that they didn't know Joe Kent? They absolutely knew Joe Kent, right? They absolutely knew Joe Kent. They were in the same circles. The the Marine, the prior military, the intelligence community, the contract jobs, and you know the same community. And yeah, so for Joe Kent just uh, to do a favor for a podcaster, um, to access intelligence databases for a podcaster outside of the official required um, what the FOIA process, that's leaking. Whether we like him or not, it doesn't matter if we like him or not. He should have told Candace and Mitch Snow, um, no, I'm NCTC. I am the National Counterterrorism Center Director. I have to be very careful because I'm guarding our national security and we are going after terrorists. That's what we're going to do. And President Trump has designated cartels as terrorists, and also those that are aiding and abetting, those that are, even the dual citizens that are double agents, that are philanthropists, just because they're philanthropists. The media wanted to brand JE as a philanthropist, Oh, Zorro Ranch is the home of a philanthropist. Little St. James is a home of philanthropists. New York or whatever, all the different places he had, and the most despicable things going on. Uh, you know, whatever. You could be a narco philanthropist. You could be a trafficking philanthropist. You could be a predator philanthropist. You could be one that wants to do the worst type of things because you're trying to find eternal life um, instead of, and this is what's going to happen. Um, Tomorrow night, I'm not coming on. It's the one night that I don't come on. and that is the night of Good Friday. I don't come on. Um, but then I'll be back. Then I'll be back. Um, because not because of having a party or anything like that, but because of realizing you can't be afraid. Christ has overcome death. They targeted him, they tortured him, and they killed him. And the very people that were saying, Hosanna in the highest, were saying, crucify him. And it's very somber, um, because that's the sheep that we are, and we have to rise above it. We have to rise above it, and yeah, risk being courageous. Risk being courageous. And there's so much at stake now. You know, there's so much at stake because our schools, our courts, our law enforcement, um, it is just overran by those that do not respect our country, the laws, God. They don't respect God. They're just absolute rebels against God, you know? Absolute rebels. Um and uh and you see that, and you don't know who's who, you know? You don't know who's who. Well, some of them you do. But I will tell you this, if you think that President Trump is protecting Erica Kirk, he's not protecting her. He's being diplomatic, and he's saying, "Okay, let's look into your life because if she sues them, that's discovery." You know, it's kind of like telling her your days are numbered. Your days are numbered because you know this infiltration into our country and exploitation of it has to stop. It absolutely has to stop. So we have to pray that he stays courageous and moral. Um, and I know, and there's people are like, oh, he's the worst. He's the worst. He's the top of the list, and he's a predator or whatever. And I'm like, okay, yeah, are you willing to be damned for the glory of God? I can't even imagine being in that circle that he's in. I can't even imagine. I mean, uh, he's just he's just surrounded, and but he has absolutely extradited way over 100 cartel leaders. He's just absolutely rattled the Central America, Mexico, and Central America. Turned off the spigot of. He's done so much. It would take me all night to list everything. And of course, the saboteurs and the mutineers are constantly working too. And it's just because we have this position um, and are so close to it that we can see things a little bit. So bless you all for coming on and staying faithful because with all of this propaganda, with all of this, the power that they have and the hypnosis through TVs and movies and radios and music and schools and I mean everything. Um, it's really an achievement to see past it. It really is. So um, we just want to thank everybody. And we just want to let everyone know to have a very somber, very Good Friday. It's a day just to be still. And so, thank you so much, and we will absolutely be back day after tomorrow, God willing. And please share all of our material. Will I still be posting things? We'll see. We'll see. But, because look at Pam Bondi got fired today. Can you believe it? And I haven't even posted on it yet. Um, and so that's good news. That's good news. So, okay, everyone, have a blessed Good Friday, and I will be back day after tomorrow. Thank you so much, and we love you. Bye bye.